There's a moment every man faces when he knows exactly what he should do. But temptation whispers something easier. Most fail the test, not because they're weak, but because they don't understand what the test actually is. Temptation is not your enemy, it's your initiation. In this video, I'm going to explain to you how the thing that almost derailed you might be the exact thing trying to forge you. We're going to be talking about the use of temptation. I remember when temptation hit me the hardest. I was declaring to go full-time on YouTube. I was getting rid of casual hookups. I was done with drinking alcohol. I was done with staying up late. And at this time, I was managing a fine dining restaurant downtown. I was in my mid to late 20s, I was about 28. I'm 34 right now. I may look barely a day past 21, but black don't crack. But I remember this day clear as day, because when I made this declaration that I was going to go all in on YouTube, I was going to show up and speak to you guys about what I love, the books I love to read, philosophy, metaphysics, to self-help and mastery. And what happened was I started being met with all this temptation. At this time, I was the manager of this fine dining restaurant. So with being a manager, you also have a lot of perks. I'm showing up wearing a suit every day, looking good. I have a allowance on top of my salary of at least $60 a day on food and drink that I could spend however I want. So a lot of times I would be eating steak, whatever it was that I wanted to eat that day. But this also granted me access to drink whenever I wanted to. This also attracted a lot of people who wanted to hang out because I had that social status that I was the guy in charge. So I'd get a lot of coworkers who wanted to come out. Excuse the helicopter in the sky. I'd get a lot of coworkers that wanted to hang out. I get also a lot of customers that would flirt, either slip me their number or say they want to hang out as well. So much temptation. And this didn't start happening until I actually made this declaration to make these YouTube videos. I would get off, I was working a shift of 3 to 11. So I'd get off and have to really be disciplined and make these videos at midnight. And I would edit them, I'd create the thumbnail, I would actually post it, schedule it all before I went to bed so it went live that next morning. And I did this continuously, and continuing to show up, I was rewarded. But it definitely was not easy. And looking back on that time, I feel like I had to basically prove to God and the universe that I was the guy who I was trying to be. I was who I said I was. I am who I say I am. So I want you guys to think about, whenever you make a declaration that you're going to change, you're going to make a change, imagine a signal being casted out. It's like everyone in the universe, everyone around the world is like, oh, what? So Salem wants to be what? Salem wants to have a relationship? Salem wants to be single? Salem, okay, like, let's see if you are who you say you are. You want to grow this business? You want to be a great investor? You want to help break generational curses? Okay, let's see if you are that person. We're going to forge you through the fire. James Allen, I like to continue to reference. He's this great philosopher. He has a lot of great works, and the book he wrote, As a Man Thinketh, is one of them. He has a thing that he says, excuse me, there is 3 stages of the soul. And the soul starts in the stage of the animal stage. This animal stage is where we live for pleasure. That's where we're gluttons. It's basically majority of society. Unaware of the sin that we may be in. And this is not to demonize anyone. It's not about you living in sin and things like that. The word sin, it has origins in Greek. And sin means to miss the mark. So for me, I think of sin as basically veering off the path of alignment. It's you not syncing up with your divine self. You not syncing up to who you know you should be. So you're living a life in sin. You're being basically casted out. Then you get to the dual stage. This is where you are no longer thinking ignorance is bliss. You might be woken up out of the matrix. You know, there's a part in the matrix where Neo's friend, he is woken up and he's able to actually see that he's in the matrix, but he then chooses to eat the steak and live in the matrix. So this part is where you have a lot of choices. There's constant tension going on. This is the stage of temptation. This is where you will be tested, because now you know what's right from wrong. You're not living unaware. You can't say you didn't know. Then you get to stage 3, which is the knowledge stage. This is the stage of peace. This is where you are no longer tempted, you're purified. But you can only get here once you have that awareness of where you are at. This is why it's so important to read. This is why it's so important to have experiences that could shake you out of this hypnotic rhythm that you may be in. Temptation has a role to play. Some may have desires of frustration, or some may have desires and be frustrated that they don't have success. But along this whole path, they're failing every test. Let me say that again. Some may have desires and frustrated that they have no success, all while failing every test. So how I think about this is, if I say I want to be successful and blow up on YouTube, I can't expect God and the universe to reward me with this if I continue to fail every test, if I am a detriment to myself. Imagine that. If I believe God thinks of us all as his children, why would he put me in a position to harm more of his children? The thing that makes the most sense is to basically put me out of the way so I don't do any harm. If I'm going to do any harm, then just do it to myself. You know, that's basically the best case scenario. Keeping you out of harm's way. I believe you have to prove that you are worthy to pass the test, then to be moved on to success and abundance. So I think a great way for a lot of people to get past this temptation phase of their life is to realize that someone is always watching. And you are basically trying to shape yourself up into the individual, that is worthy of this success. So why do you think that you could get away with drinking like you do, treating people badly like you do, maybe masturbating all the time? Someone is watching you, and you have not been considered worthy of this success. Because once you get it, you are going to be a mess. You're going to destroy your life. You may destroy someone else's life. You are dangerous. if you are given all this great power, but you have not learned how to be responsible? Temptation, referencing back to the Matrix, is basically the woman in the red dress. The part where Neo is walking with Morpheus, and he's basically being shown that he's in the Matrix. And Morpheus is basically telling Neo like what he could expect, what's on the horizon, and this beautiful blonde girl walks by in this red dress. And this is basically symbolizing temptation in your life. You can't fall for it. It looks nice. It looks subtle. It may whisper to you. It may whisper like maybe just this one time. But you can't do that. You gotta realize someone is always watching, and you would not be considered worthy of the success that you seek. There's a delusion as well. I'm on this little muddy path right now, but it's nice out. There's a delusion as well, thinking that temptation comes from the outside. Temptation and that desire to even go in that direction comes from inside of us. I grew up in the church, and anyone who grew up religiously knows that it's easy to demonize others. It's easy to look past yourself and consider that just because I go to church, that can't be in me. You know, that's evil on the outside trying to get me. It's like, no. This is where you start doing that real good shadow work that they talk about. Realizing that these desires and this capability to be evil is within you. And the longer you run away from it, the longer you allow these energies to run rampant in you. And you're basically walking in the world with no armor, because say you've been going to church, but you've never been doing the deep work to realize, like, why do I have these desires of sleeping around? Why do I have these desires of drinking all the time? Why do I have these desires of, whatever it is? Insert your vice there. But realize, because it's within you, you have an appetite for it for some reason. It's not that someone's out to get you. Like I said, when you make this declaration, the world's just going to try to see if you are who you say you are. James Allen says, "The good in man is never tempted. It is the evil in man that is aroused." I'm going to let that hit. There's another delusion, which is I'm only tempted because I'm holy. I'm only tempted because I'm righteous and the devil's out to get me. It's like, no, you're not special. You just deemed yourself as someone that wants to be special, and now you're going to have to be tested to make sure that you are worthy of it is what you seek. Temptation doesn't mean that you're good. You're still on the battleground, proving yourself. Don't get lost in the sauce. I'm gonna do a little turn here, make a little circle. I don't want to get distracted with people coming up here at this pivotal point. Temptation, what we have to also realize, it's a mirror. Temptation is a mirror. So when we are met with that temptation, I think it's important to ask ourselves, what part of me still wants this? What part of me is this arousing? Why do I feel aroused by this temptation? Why have I not dispelled and purified this temptation? There's a reason why when men get in marriages, they may have been living a life a single life, a bachelor life, of hooking up with all these random chicks. And then when they find a good girl and they want to get married, they find it hard to settle down and not look outside of their marriage, look outside of their relationship, because they've never trained themselves to actually be able to only be satisfied with one woman. They still have the appetite to be out and be promiscuous. So you just think it's going to change overnight? Like, that's not how reality works. You have to shape yourself up into that individual. And this is where I get into, I said, now you may be in a relationship and you aren't even the individual that could handle being with just one person. So now you're going to hurt that person because you didn't take the time to mold yourself and forge yourself into a man that could handle one woman and doesn't have a desire to have multiple women. This goes for women as well. You know, it's not the same. Girls aren't as promiscuous and have that desire as much as men. Women just want the great man. Men want many women naturally. So it's important to get rid of that desire. In order to do this and to be aware and know that you still have these desires, you have to sit with yourself. You can't be always at every party, being with all these friends all the time, not ever having alone time. You need to take some time to meditate, to maybe journal, wake up and recount your day. Recount on how it went. You know, it's like, did I fail the test that I know that was a test today? Was I even aware that I was being tested? These are important things to sit with yourself and analyze. You know, you can't just be going through your day drifting as if nothing has meaning. That's just the most insane thing, that people go through life as if nothing has meaning. You're being tested daily. And as I continue on my journey, I'm learning this truth. And when temptation comes to me, I just laugh, you know, especially when I know I've made a declaration to be a certain person, or actually go a certain direction. You know, I just don't allow it to throw me off track. Temptation isn't a flaw, it's a mirror. And once you could see it clearly, you could let those desires or those temptations go. Now, this doesn't mean you'll never be tested or tempted again. It means you understand what it came to teach you. So learn the lesson, pass the test. If you've made it this far in the video, congratulations, you've leveled up. This ain't it. You know, there's got a whole life ahead of you. I mean, it may get easier the more conscious you are, but don't get lost in the sauce. I go by Salem, and I'm here to bring you deep truths and insights every week to level you up. You know, I think life is a game, and it's important to level up your character and equip yourself with the attributes that could get you to that next stage in life that may be unlocked, maybe grayed out. That part of the map is not for you yet because you haven't gained the experience points. This leads me to something I'm proud of lately, which is my weekly newsletter. If you enjoyed this talk, every Sunday I put out a weekly newsletter on Substack that you could subscribe to. The link is in the description. I go into these topics just more in a written form, and I start there and I basically freestyle these videos. There's also one-on-one coaching that I'm doing. You could book a session, allow me to help you align and get past any temptation or level up in an area that you may be struggling with. And I'm also working on an ebook. It's going to be geared towards men, getting past temptation. My thoughts on the title is basically like temptation is the test, a man's guide to mastery. So if that's something you want, there's something you may want in this ebook, let me know. Put it in the comments. I'd love to help you out and continue to level up, you know. As always, know that a belief may be comforting, but only through true experience does it become liberating. Grant yourself permission to level up, and until next time, I go by Salem. I'll see you in the next one.